There are almost a dozen candidates in Brazil's presidential elections on Sunday, but only two really stand a chance. Former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who's known as Lula, and incumbent Jair Bolsonaro. It is a clash of titans, and polls show 8 of 10 Brazilians say they will vote for one of the two candidates. The election could signal the return of a leftist government after 4 years under a far-right president who's been criticized for challenging democratic institutions, mishandling the pandemic, and the worst deforestation in the Amazon in 15 years. Polls show Lula with a commanding lead that might even give him a first-round victory without need for a runoff. Even if that doesn't happen, the vote marks an improbable comeback for the former president who just 4 years ago was jailed as part of a massive corruption investigation. That allowed Bolsonaro to cruise to victory in 2018. The Supreme Court later annulled the convictions, enabling Lula to mount a challenge this year. Lula has sought to remind working-class voters that his presidency featured a huge social welfare program that lifted tens of millions of people into the middle class. That isn't what Bolsonaro wants them to remember. He often refers to Lula as a thief and an ex-convict. The former army captain campaigned in 2018 on a platform of getting tough on crime while defending traditional family values and national pride. This time, he met headwinds, in part due to his pandemic policies that a Senate investigation said warranted criminal charges. Women in particular have turned their backs on him due to his apparent lack of empathy in the pandemic and for sowing doubt about vaccines. Bolsonaro has sought to improve his standing among them by highlighting his administration's welfare programs. But tough times still remain in Brazil with high inflation and food insecurity. Bolsonaro has softened the blows by lowering fuel taxes and increasing welfare payments. He's also insisted that Brazil's electronic voting system is prone to fraud, without ever presenting any evidence for that claim. But that has raised concerns he could reject election results and try to cling to power. Bolsonaro's allies and supporters say that the polls underestimate the president's popularities, and they point instead to his massive street rallies happening all over the country. Now, everyone's waiting to see the result of the vote, and if it goes against Bolsonaro, whether on Sunday or in an eventual runoff, whether or not he will accept defeat.